Hi children, I am going to continue the lesson. Now let us have a quick recap of what we learnt in the previous part of the lesson. We learnt about the arrival of Mahatma Gandhi and the earlier movements which were led by Mahatma Gandhi in India, Rowlatt Act, Jallianwala Bagh massacre, and some of the communal organizations, Khilafat agitation, and non-cooperation movement. The first major movement started by Gandhiji, Chirala Perala movements under the leadership of Dugirala Gopal Krishnaiah, Pullari Satyagraha, and also how and why non-cooperation movement was called off by Gandhiji. This is what we learnt in the earlier part of the lesson. Now let us enter into the second part of the lesson. Formation of RSS and CPI. RSS full form is Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh, and it was formed on 27th December in 1925 at Nagpur by Keshava Chandra Baliram, and it is the world's largest Hindu organization, and its main aim is to make India world's supreme spiritual power and to revive its lost culture. Today there are 57,000 branches of RSS and 70 lakh people are connected with it. And as you know, our President, Vice President, Prime Minister, Home Minister, and 18 Chief Ministers, and 29 governors, and 2 lakh Saraswati Vidyalayas, 1 crore students, 15 crore BJP members, 1 crore VHP members, VHP means Vishwa Hindu Parishad members, are part of this RSS today. RSS means Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh. And CPI, full form of CPI is Communist Party of India. It was formed with the aim of establishing a government by working class. Inspired by the Russian Revolution in 1917, this party was formed. Now next comes the civil disobedience movement. This is the second major movement led by Gandhiji. The first major movement was non-cooperation movement, and the second major movement is civil disobedience movement. Meanwhile, in response to the Indian national movement, a statutory commission was set up in 1927 under Sir John Simon to look into the functioning of the constitutional system in India and suggest some changes. And the problem was that the commission did not have a single Indian member. There was no Indian member in the commission, and they were all Britishers. When the Simon Commission arrived in India in 1928, it was greeted with the slogan, Simon Go Back. The Indian leaders gave a slogan, Simon Go Back, and all the parties participated in the demonstrations. And to satisfy the leaders, the British Viceroy, Lord Irwin, announced a vague offer of dominion status for India in an unspecified future. Dominion status means we can rule our country but under the supervision of the British, and that too without specific date. No date was given, no specific time was given. They said dominion status will be given. So this did not satisfy the Congress leaders, and in December 1929, in the Lahore Congress session, a demand for Purna Swaraj was made under the presidency of Nehru. Nehru was the president of Lahore Congress session, and under his presidency, a demand for Purna Swaraj was made. Purna Swaraj means complete independence, complete freedom. And it was declared that 26th January 1930 would be celebrated as the Independence Day. And it was also decided in this Lahore session to launch civil disobedience movement to achieve this goal. Now, this civil disobedience movement was started with Salt Satyagraha or Dandi Satyagraha, Dandi March or Dandi Satyagraha or Salt Satyagraha. Now, let us see what is it. On 31st January 1930, Gandhiji sent a letter to Viceroy Irwin with 11 demands. Some were general demands and some were demands of specific classes, from peasants to industrialists. All were covered. And the idea was to unite all against the British. An ultimatum was given in that letter that if demands are not fulfilled by 11th March, civil disobedience movement will be started. and the Viceroy was unwilling to negotiate. So Gandhi started civil disobedience movement with Dandi March or Salt Satyagraha. Gandhi, followed by 78 followers, started Salt March, or as we call it as Dandi March, from Sabarmati Ashram in Gujarat to Dandi. It is a coastal city covering a distance of 375 kilometers. And they took 24 days to cover this distance and reach Dandi. And after reaching Dandi, on 6th April 1930, Gandhiji broke the salt law. Because of this salt law which was made by the Britishers, salt became too expensive for the common people in India. And Gandhiji broke this salt law and he manufactured salt by boiling seawater. He broke the salt law which was made by the Britishers by manufacturing salt by boiling seawater. And this was the starting of civil disobedience movement, and it was a symbol of Indian people's refusal to live under the British rule. And salt laws were broken at many places. Even women took part in large number in this movement, and in Delhi alone 1600 women were imprisoned. Foreign cloth shops and liquor shops were picketed and burnt. British schools and colleges and other services were boycotted. Now, after this, let us see the reaction of the government for all these things. The government brutally suppressed it with lathi charges, firing on the people. Nearly 90,000 satyagrahis, including Gandhiji and other Congress leaders, were imprisoned. And press freedom was also curtailed. Women and children beaten up. And in such a situation, Mahatma Gandhi once again decided to call off the movement and entered into a pact means agreement, with Viceroy Irwin, known as Gandhi-Irwin Pact. He signed an agreement with Viceroy Irwin, and this agreement is famously known as Gandhi-Irwin Pact. On 5th March 1931, Gandhiji signed this Gandhi-Irwin Pact. And by this pact, Gandhiji agreed to participate in the second round table conference. First round table conference was already boycotted by the Congress. So, second round table conference, Gandhiji said that he will attend the conference, but in return, the government agreed to release all the political prisoners. If the government releases all the political prisoners, then Gandhiji agreed to attend to the second round table conference in London. And in December 31, Gandhiji went to London to attend the second round table conference, but the negotiations broke down and he returned disappointed. And when he came back to India, Gandhi saw that Ghaffar Khan, his close friend he was, Ghaffar Khan and Nehru were in jail, and meetings, demonstrations and boycotts were restricted by the government. So Gandhi relaunched the civil disobedience movement once again. He once again restarted the civil disobedience movement, but by 1935 the movement lost its momentum. Now, the Government of India Act 1935. This 1935 Act is an important act which was passed by the British government. The government passed this Government of India Act 1935, and this act granted provincial autonomy. The main provision of this act was it granted provincial autonomy. Let us first see what is this provincial autonomy. Under the British rule, India was divided into 11 provinces, and these provinces were ruled directly by the British. And more than 550 princely states were there. And these princely states were ruled by the native kings under the British supervision. And there were 3 presidencies: Bombay, Madras and Calcutta. Autonomy means power to rule themselves. And in the provinces, people could elect their own representatives to rule them. The provinces which were ruled directly by the British, till now, they were given provincial autonomy. That means they could rule themselves by electing their representatives to the legislative councils. That is called as provincial autonomy. In 1937, elections to the provincial legislatures were announced. And in these elections, the Congress formed governments in 7 out of 11 provinces. And in 1939, the Second World War broke out between Germany, Japan, Italy on one side, and Britain, France, USA on the other side. And in the Second World War, when Britain wanted India to support Britain in the war, the Congress leaders agreed, but in return they demanded complete independence after the war. As it was not agreed upon, immediately the Congress ministries resigned as a protest. Now the next one is Quit India movement. It is the third major movement led by Gandhiji in 1942, and the famous slogan given by Gandhiji was "Do or Die." Quit India and Do or Die both are the slogans of this Quit India movement. In 1942, the British Prime Minister Winston Churchill sent one of his ministers, Sir Stafford Cripps, to India to try and forge a compromise with Gandhiji, to hold talks with Gandhiji and other Congress leaders. But talks failed as the Congress insisted that the Viceroy should first appoint an Indian as the Defence Minister. And after the failure of the Cripps mission, Mahatma Gandhi decided to launch the third major movement against the British rule, that is Quit India movement. And the Congress Working Committee met on 8th August 1942 at Bombay and passed a resolution that the British should leave India and British rule in India should come to an end immediately. After this resolution was passed, Gandhiji addressed the Indian people in these words: "Every one of you should from this moment onwards consider yourself a free man or woman and act as if you are free." That means everyone in the country must feel that he or she is free. I am not going to be satisfied with anything short of complete freedom. And he made it very clear that, Gandhiji made it very clear that he is not satisfied with anything else other than complete freedom for the country. We shall do or die. We shall either free India or die in the attempt. That means we Indians shall either free India or die in an attempt to free India. And this is how the do or die slogan was given by Gandhiji at the time of this Quit India movement. And in the early hours of 9th August 1942, the British government arrested most of the Congress leaders like Gandhiji, Nehru, Patel, Maulana Azad, Rajendra Prasad, and many others were arrested. As a protest against these arrests, people all over the country carried out hartals, strikes, processions, etc. And the working class boycotted the work. Students attacked police stations, railway stations, telegraph and telephone lines were cut off, and government buildings, vehicles, railway carriages were burnt. Unfortunately, the movement turned violent. And in UP, Bihar, Orissa, West Bengal, Maharashtra, and Andhra Pradesh, the British authority almost disappeared. In Midnapur, people set up parallel government during 1940-44. And as a result of this movement, many police personnel and army people lost their lives. Many were killed. Thousands were arrested by the government. Much property was destroyed. And by the end of 1943, more than 90,000 people were arrested, around 1,000 people were killed in police firings, and orders were given in many areas to use machine guns at the crowds from airplanes. Wherever they find crowds, to disperse the crowds or to kill them. Orders were given in many areas by the British government. Now in this picture you can see Bhagat Singh, Subhash Chandra Bose, J.B. Kripalani, and Abdul Kalam Azad. Now, Subhash Chandra Bose, he was a freedom fighter and a radical nationalist also. And he organized the Indian National Army, which is famously known as INA. With the cooperation of Rash Bihari Bose in Burma and Andamans, he organized this Indian National Army. And there were more than 60,000 soldiers in this Indian National Army. And he received the help of Japan in this fight. And on 21st October 1943, Azad Hind was set up in Singapore. Azad Hind, you might have heard of Azad Hind Fauj. It was set up in Singapore, and on March 18th, 1944, the INA crossed the boundaries of Burma and entered into India with a slogan, Dilli Chalo. Dilli Chalo, it was a slogan given by Subhash Chandra Bose. And in March 1944, the Indian flag was hoisted in Kohima. Kohima, it is the present capital of Nagaland, but unfortunately the INA was defeated with the final defeat of Japan in the Second World War. In the Second World War, when Japan was defeated, immediately this INA was also defeated by the Britishers. On August 23, 1945, he is reported to have lost life in an air crash while going from Bangkok to Tokyo. And years of radical organizations. The national movement, which was till then dominated by upper class people, now gained a new dimension. After 1940, radical organizations like Communist Party, trade unions, Kisan Sabhas played an important role, and these organizations mobilized the poor peasants, workers, tribals and Dalits not only against the British rule but also the local exploiters like money lenders and factory owners, because these people, the Dalits or tribals or workers, they were exploited by the money lenders, factory owners also. So not only against the British rule but also against these local exploiters like money lenders and factory owners, they were mobilized. As part of this, the provincial Kisan Sabha led Tibhaga movement in Bengal, and the peasants demanded that their share of harvest should be increased to 2 out of 3 instead of half or even less. Till then, the peasants in Bengal, they were receiving half or even less than half of the produce as their share. But now they demanded that 2 out of 3 must be given to them as their part of share of harvest. And similarly in Hyderabad, Communist Party led a movement of Telangana peasants, and these peasants demanded that debts of farmers be written off means to be cancelled, bonded labor should be stopped. Now towards independence and partition. On 23rd March 1940, the Muslim League moved a resolution demanding autonomy for the Muslim majority areas. But the resolution never mentioned about partition of the country. And this resolution is famously known as Pakistan Resolution. On 23rd March 1940, the Muslim League moved a resolution demanding autonomy for the Muslim majority areas. Wherever Muslims are in majority, in those areas, it wanted autonomy. Autonomy means self-rule, to be ruled by the Muslims. But the resolution never mentioned about any partition of the country at that time. In 1937 elections, the League felt that the Muslims were in minority and always they have to play a secondary role with the Hindus. Hindus were majority, obviously, and the Muslims were in minority. That's what the Muslim League felt. The Muslim League felt that the Muslims were in minority and always they had to play a secondary role only. With the Hindus will be always number one and the secondary role will be played by the Muslims. And also when the League wanted to form coalition government, in 1937 elections, what happened in United Provinces means the present Uttar Pradesh area. In United Provinces, both the Muslim League and the Congress Party also won the elections. When both won the elections, Muslim League wanted to form coalition government along with the Congress. But the Congress rejected it. And this annoyed the League. League was not satisfied with this. When their proposal to form coalition government in the United Provinces was rejected by the Congress, the League got annoyed at this, and because of all these reasons, they demanded a measure of autonomy in Muslim majority areas so that they can rule themselves. And the Congress found it very difficult to accommodate the demands of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the leader of the Muslim League. And next one is Cabinet Mission. And in March 1946, the British Cabinet sent a 3-member mission to Delhi to examine the League's demand and to suggest a suitable political framework for free India. 3-member Cabinet mission was sent to India, and this Cabinet mission, these members, they toured all over the country for 3 months, and then they recommended a loose 3-tier confederation, but India was to remain united. They mentioned that there must be a loose three-tier confederation. Three-tier confederation means at 3 levels government should be formed, just like we have today. Local level, state level, central level. But India was to remain united. They said partition should not take place. India should be united. It should remain united only. That was the proposal of cabinet mission. They said that they took the country for 3 months and they recommended a loose three-tier confederation, and they said India must remain united. And initially this plan was accepted by all the major parties. But neither the Congress party nor the Muslim League agreed to the cabinet mission's proposal. And so partition became inevitable. Now, direct action day. When the cabinet mission's proposal was not accepted by the League or the Congress, immediately the Muslim League decided that its demands cannot be met through discussions. And it decided on direct action for winning its Pakistan demand. And it announced 16th August 1946 as Direct Action Day. And on this day, riots broke out in Calcutta for many days and several thousand people were dead. And by March 1947, this violence spread to many other parts of the country also. And in February 1947, Mountbatten was appointed as Viceroy. When Mountbatten also found it difficult to resolve the differences between the Congress party and the Muslim League, he decided to divide India into two: independent India and Muslim majority areas of Punjab, NWFP. NWFP means North-West Frontier Province, Sindh, Balochistan, and East Bengal. All these 5 provinces, they were formed into Pakistan: Punjab, NWFP, Sindh, Balochistan, and East Bengal. They were to be formed as Pakistan and independent India separate. And the formal transfer of power was done to Pakistan on 14th August. On 14th August itself, the power was transferred to Pakistan, and to India it was done on 15th August. And that is why we celebrate our Independence Day on 15th August. And partition was a painful situation for many people. Hindus in Pakistan were forced to leave their homes, properties, and go back to India. And similarly, the Muslims in India were forced to go back to Pakistan. Nearly 1.5 crore people were displaced due to this partition of the country. And in frustration, these Hindus and Muslims, they killed each other. Nearly 2 to 5 lakh Hindus and Muslims were killed, and they became refugees. They lived in relief camps. And Gandhiji was moving in these areas, spreading the message of peace and unity. When we were celebrating our first Independence Day, Gandhiji did not attend the celebrations, but he was moving in these areas, spreading the message of peace and unity to all the people. So, we were happy that we got independence from the Britishers after a long time. At the same time, it was also followed by this pain of partition, pain and violence also that took place at the time of partition. And that is the end of the lesson. Now I am going to give you a homework. Read the lesson, full lesson once again, underlining all the important points with pencil. Learn all the keywords from the material. Complete the MCQs and blanks in the material. Complete map pointing in pages 185, 186 and 192, and learn the important years and incidents carefully.